Drago.
What's up, baby?
We're going with the Dodgers hat today. You got a lot of favorite teams, don't you? You got the Dodgers, the A's. We got to figure out who your baseball team is. Who is your baseball team?
I like players, man. I like Otani.
You like Otani?
Yeah, I
So
like
we are at episode 47.
47, baby.
There's not very many 47 famous athletes. We always like to go through.
No, no, no. We so Bill, we at the beginning of the show, we always like bring up like some famous athletes that like wore the number of the podcast. Like there's literally nobody. There's a dude that played for the Bears, Matt Slauson.
John Lynch from Denver. Remember the
Oh, fair
safety?
enough. John
That's
Lynch.
about the only one I know.
Yeah,
Oh, he was a stud.
yeah.
John Lynch was a stud. Yeah, there was some cornerback too from Pittsburgh. Who am I trying to think of? Mel Blunt. Mel
Mel
Blunt.
Blount.
Those are the
That's
only two 47s I know.
that's some old
So
school Mel Blount.
we're at episode 47. I am 3 weeks away from 15 years clean,
Let's
Mr.
go.
Dragovich.
That's awesome.
Right? And my drug of choice was cocaine. You were what?
Opioids. I'm coming up on 7 years this year.
How about you, Bill?
Alcohol.
Alcohol and coming up
Um,
on what?
coming up on three.
Let's
Three.
go.
Three
Yeah.
years.
I think as we've got into this and we're 47 weeks into this now, I think alcohol might be the most difficult because of the social acceptance and stigma and how available and easy it is, right? I just think that is a super, super tough addiction to work through. So I'm excited to talk to you today. This third chance episode, we call it third chance because I was given three chances on life. I sold drugs. I got busted for that. I was the product of a one night stand or a fling, and fortunately, my biological mother gave me up instead of terminating the pregnancy. So I look at that as another chance. And then January 18th, 2010, I tried to take my life. I had $330,000 debt, failed business, huge drug addiction, making a lot of money, but spending way more. And crippled with shame, guilt, and depression. I tried to take my life that night, but thankfully God intervened. My bulldog intervened. I found Kristen, my beautiful wife. I found a community through NA. I found a sponsor that helped me and gave me systems, tools, and processes to get through it because he knew I was a high achiever. And then I found mentorship and coaching to get rid of the debt and accentuate my strengths and help move up the floor on my gosh, what would you call it? Move up the floor and raise the ceiling. So that's been my journey, and we're excited to talk through Bills today. Tell them a little bit about your journey, Drago.
Yeah, man. Jeff Dragovich. I love the opioids. Can't get enough of those. Coming up on 6 years. I mean, my story's pretty wild too. September 18th, I got out September 18th, 2018. I OD'd in front of my kids, almost killed myself. Woke up, needed to make a change. So that's my wild story. I'm super pumped to have my cousin come on here. I've been trying to get him to come on for a minute. He's like, "Hey man, I'm just kind of ignoring your text messages." So I finally got him to come on here. But Bill Kennan out of Colorado. This is my brother from another mother. I mean, dude, Bill, you've been in my life since been. I was in your wedding. I think I was like
Forever. Yeah, it's
seven,
forever.
7 or 8, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we got a
You're
lot of.
how old?
I was 7.
That,
I turned 44 next Friday.
wow. So that
Yeah.
was like chubby little Jeff that had the shoulder pads and the bat
Yep.
behind his neck like
Yep.
Bo Jackson, huh?
Yep.
He's
Yep.
known you since those days.
Yep. Bill was always the so Bill married my cousin Kim, and my cousin Kim was like big part of my mom's life. And then like Bill was always like the cool bigger brother. He'd come hang out and do stuff and go water skiing and ride dirt bikes and but I mean the dude, they for sure saved my life. I mean, I don't ever think he knew like how bad my addiction was. Like I had just got out of a relationship with a girl who he knows I was with for a lot of years, and like I just went off the rails, and I was slamming heroin and methamphetamine and locking myself in hotel rooms, and I was just like, man, I got to get the F out of here. And I got myself cleaned up a little bit, and I found a job out in Colorado, and I was like, hey, can I please come live with you guys for a little bit? When I get in there, like, come out tomorrow. So got in my truck, drove out there, and that started a lot of change for me, which I'm very, very grateful for, because I probably would be dead if I didn't make that move for sure. So Bill struggles or is recovering from alcohol, right? And so I think it's pretty cool, like full circle, because I remember like he came to me and was like, "Hey man, like I think I got to stop drinking. My health's getting bad." And I just always I was like super into like the NA at the time, and I'm like, man, this is kind of like what I do, and he has his own story which he can share, which I think is pretty cool. But like it came full circle where he went from like, nah, I don't need that stuff. I'm good. I'll just stop drinking to like now he goes to meetings. I think you're sponsoring people, right? Like you're going, you're doing the deal, you're staying sober, you're coming up on 3 years, which is huge, right? Because if alcohol was my drug of choice, it would just be so hard because everywhere we go, there's alcohol, man.
Oh,
Damn. I'll give
so
it to him. Like
socially,
we
so
make
socially accepted and so much peer pressure. Like, and I don't want to compare addictions, right? But it's like, you know, when people are pushing cocaine on you, they kind of know it's bad. They know it's probably not good, right?
yeah,
They should know with opioids, like, hey, it's probably not good. I'm giving my buddy
yeah,
these pills, right? These blueies. This is probably not good. Alcohol though, it's just like it's this bro culture. It's this, hey, come get messed up with us. Let's go out. So socially accepted and pushed upon us.
yeah.
I gotta
And
imagine
don't get
that's
me
hard
wrong,
to
like
get through.
some of the best memories I have growing up are with Bill and drinking and having a good time. And but again, you know how it goes.
Yeah,
It ends up going sideways. You know what I'm saying?
that's right. Well, let's let Bill tell his story. Tell us a little bit about your journey, brother.
Where should I start?
Yeah, let's just start. I think a great place is like tell us about your first drink, and then what that led into. Was it a problem at the beginning? Um, what was kind of rock bottom and why you had to go get help and how you went about it, and just wrap it up in a nice little bow of where you're at now.
Yeah, so gosh, my first drink, I was probably two. No, I'm joking, but what's interesting is especially in my corporate life, my whole life, just drinking is like you guys were saying, it's so social. Not only is it socially acceptable when you're at corporate meetings, it's arguably expected.
Yeah.
You go out to a meeting, you're like, I'm not drinking tonight, and you're like, your boss is like, oh yeah, you are. Like, well, okay, well, I guess I am. And the interesting part about my corporate life is I never once had a drink at work my entire life. Never.
Mm.
Um, I would, I would, I mean, I guess I was a pretty responsible drinker for, if that's a thing.
Yeah.
Because drinking is an interesting thing to me these days. But never once, never crossed the line. Um, and then I left corporate America. I got self-employed, and I was pretty decent there for quite some time too. And then COVID hit. And I remember the day distinctly. The mayor and the governor got on TV, and they said we're shutting down liquor stores, and I had a slight little panic. I'm like, holy shit, I gotta stay at home, and I gotta deal with everything, and I'm not gonna have any drinks. So we went and got like a pallet of alcohol, not quite that much, but you know what I mean. Um, and then I started to go down a bad hill quickly, like really, really, really fast. And I've said this a bunch of times. Most of my life I drank because I wanted to, and then I quickly got to a point where I drank because I had to. I was the physical addiction becomes very interesting very fast.
Say that again, Bill. That was powerful.
Yeah, the physical addiction, which
Oh,
I
but
had.
you said I used to have control of my
Yeah,
drinking. Say
yeah.
that part again.
I used to be, if there is a responsible drinker, like all the commercials say, until I wasn't. I
Yeah.
lost control of the fun. I lost control of the social aspect, and the physical addiction took over quickly.
I want to stop you right there just real quick because that might be the best line that anybody said in 47
Yeah.
episodes. It is so true. Like I was a highly functioning cocaine addict. I would almost argue I was a better loan officer and better at work. Why I was high and why I was using because of the stimulants of it. I could just keep going and going and going, right? And I would use it and I always had control on it. It looked good on the outside. Like everybody knew like I was very successful and made good money. They didn't know how fast it was going out, but the truth was eventually I crossed that threshold and it became a need. And when I didn't
Yeah.
have it, it was a huge dopamine crash and huge depression and shame and guilt. And then it just turned into this vicious cycle. And I don't know if you can, but I cannot pinpoint like, oh, it was that moment. It just happens
Yeah.
gradually and it's so subtle each time. And then all of a sudden it's out of control.
Yeah, and no, I can't pinpoint a moment too. I can pinpoint and that's why COVID resonates so much for me, because the shutdown, and what are we going to do? And then you had nothing but time,
Right.
nothing but time and boredom. And you wake up in the morning, or I woke up in the morning, and what are you going to do today? I'm like, well, shit, let's have a drink. Why? Let's start the party early.
Yeah.
Um, and I can tell you countless vacations that we did that on, and you do that for a handful of days or a week, and then you get home, and you got to go back to the real world. But the shutdown was I hate to use the word traumatic for me, but it turned into traumatic for me. It
Yeah.
wasn't I wasn't all caught up by all the whatever, but my boredom turned into, I'm just going to drink 24/7.
Yeah.
um and the because I wanted to, because I needed to, was just an interesting point. And like you said, alcohol is not hard to get.
Right.
You can, every corner you can get it, and it's not that expensive either.
Yeah.
The Costco bottles are pretty reasonable. You get a 175 vodka for like $13. um and then it got to a point to where my wife and my kids started noticing, and I still tried to play it off. And my worst words were, I got this and I'm okay. And I've said this a bunch of times: I didn't have it and I wasn't okay.
Yeah.
But I kept repeating it. um and this was all relatively quick amount of time. This is months.
Yeah.
And then in May of 2020, I think I went into which the shutdown was. I want to drop F bombs, but I'll try not to. The shutdown down was
Your
March
cousin
8th.
does all the time.
Yeah.
It's been accepted
Yeah.
before.
You could say fuck. It's okay.
So 2 months later, I go into the hospital with AFib. And I'm lucky it didn't kill me. So I woke up. I don't remember exactly what day it was. I probably should, but it was May. I woke up,
This is 2020.
2020.
Yeah.
And I had that feeling like butterflies in your stomach, but it was, in my stomach and my chest. I didn't think anything of it. I'd been drinking for a month. Um, so, brilliant me. I went downstairs, had a couple more drinks, and tried to go back to sleep and sleep it off. Woke up a couple hours later, and it was, wasn't better. It was arguably worse. I wish I understood my smartwatches then. But I went to the hospital. I think my blood pressure was like 220 over 180. And my resting heartbeat was like 199.
Damn.
Um, and I just freaked out. And I quickly kind of knew what it was. And the ironic part is, like, an hour later, I look at my Apple Watch. I'm like, oh, my Apple Watch is telling me I'm in AFib, which I didn't know your watch would do that, but your watch will do that.
Wow.
So I spent 5 days in the hospital. This is a part of the story I haven't told in some time. I was getting wheeled back from the emergency room to get admitted. And the nurse wheeling me back, I'm wheeling back through the hallways on the gurney. And the nurse wheeling me back, he's like, "So what are you in for?" I'm like, probably drank a little too much. He's like, "Well, how much did you drink?" I'm like, "I think all of it. I'm pretty sure all of it." And he laughed, and he's like, "That's what we do. We're dudes, and that's what we do. You're not that indifferent than most other men." And then he went in and started talking about, I quit drinking. He said I quit drinking like 5 or 6 years ago. And he wrote down this website on my God, I haven't told this story in a long time. He wrote down this website on my menu for my food. And I was going to be there for 5 days, so I was going to look at the menu a little bit. And it took me probably 2-3 days, and I went on the website and I Googled it. And that was May 2020. That was the tipping my toe into recovery.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't committed, but I was interested.
Yeah.
So I joined that program. It was
Open to the idea of change, I call that.
yeah,
Doesn't mean you're
yeah,
going to change, but you're at least open to the idea of it.
yeah. And I really wanted to do it on my terms. In life, you got to live life on life's terms. They're not typically on my terms. And it took me 2 years to learn that.
Mm.
So I dinked around with the idea. I dipped my toe into this other program, and it cost me thousands and thousands of dollars, which I was totally fine with. If it was going to fix me, I didn't care what it costed. And then after a year or so, it kind of wasn't working. It was probably a little too manly, a little too much testosterone, and I can't badmouth it in any way, shape, or form, because it is what got me onto my road to recovery. And there's some cool people in there. But I resigned myself to, I was going to just be a vacation drinker at that point. I'll drink when I go to Mexico. I'll drink when we're on trips. And that year we didn't have a lot of business, so we took a lot of trips. So, and then when you start drinking for 7-10 days straight, you kick the physical part, and then you get home from seven. This is what amazed me. You get home from 7-8 days of drinking, and holy shit, the physical part was back. And I was kind of like dumbfounded. How does this physical, and the jitters, the shakes, the increased heart rate, that just all the uncontrollable shaking of the hands and tremors. I was amazed that you could get that back in a week's time.
Mm.
And after a couple of those, that's when I didn't figure, my wife and my daughter kind of told me that I'm going to do something different, or they're going to do something different. So that day, I poured myself a whole bunch of more drinks and then drove myself to an AA meeting. And it was down in deep. I'm looking at you in your little picture here, Jeff. It was down in deep Aurora, because that was the one that. And Jeff texted me the meeting app.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if you remember.
I do.
And you talked to me about 90 and 90, and try the meeting, and you were so nonchalant about it, right? Not judging, not, hey, you need to do this, just you should. We've been talking about it for over probably a year at this point.
Sure. Yeah.
And at that point I was like, well, fuck it. Well, what do I got to lose?
Right.
And the real answer was probably my marriage. My everything. I mean, I missed a few months later, after one of the vacations, I went into the hospital for a second stint, because after a 7-day vacation, then I got home and the vacation still stuck on for a few more days, because it just gets harder and harder to put it down. And then I went back into the hospital with AFib again. So at that point, that's when I thought, this is going to kill me. And the sad part is I'd come to terms with that, and I was kind of okay with it too. I'm like, it's going to kill me. We all got to die of something. This will just be the thing that I die of. I've had an amazing life. I got a pretty amazing family, and if I go out like this, I was okay with it, which is kind of scary.
Yeah.
And I always say I was 0% suicidal. I never thought I'm gonna take a bottle of pills or eat a bullet or any of that stuff. But now as I look back a few years later, you know, admittedly, just saying you're gonna drink yourself into oblivion, I'm not sure it's a lot different.
It's
That's
not.
pretty wild for sure.
Maybe it makes me feel better, but now I know plenty of people that died with a bottle in their hand.
Yeah.
Some really, really, really good friends from high school and
Sure.
best friends, and you sit there and you hear about it and you're like, holy shit. So that's when I started dipping my toe into AA. And I probably did that for about a year. And I was never committed. I was still wanted to do it all on my terms. Didn't really follow the program. I did some of the 90s and 90s, didn't get a sponsor, didn't really play in the chip game. I was still white knuckling, and I think I was doing it to appease other people.
Right.
And then after one more episode, if you will, they got better. They definitely got better. But the program I was on previously, their kind of shtick was, we can fix you. We can make it better. And it took me 2 years to figure that I wasn't fixable. Drinking was controlling me. I wasn't controlling drinking.
Yeah.
Which is a tough reality. And that's a stand-up moment to be able to, the good old fashioned, I'm not in control, and I wasn't. So that's when one day I was walking into another one of my meetings. I told this story this morning. Again, got a little emotional during it. So I was walking up the stairs to one of my meetings, and one of the guys in there, he's like, "How you doing?" I'm like, "Got a fucking long way to go." And the dumbest saying, he's like, "You actually don't." He's like, "You just got to get through today."
Oh,
And oddly, it was such an aha moment for me. And now you're like, and I say it all the time. It's so basic and so easy, but it was so profound in the moment to me. I'm like, because I was so futuristic, and Jeff, you kind of know, I was so driven, and so what's going to happen 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line, what's going to happen, all that stuff. Now I'm like, well, shit, what's going to happen tonight? And at that point I knew if I could get through the day and I could get to bed and I could wake up in the morning and not do anything in the middle of the night and then just do the same thing the next day, all I got to do is put days together.
Right.
Forever wasn't a realistic thing to me. I couldn't do anything forever. Well, I could do a lot of things forever, but not that. And all the negative social pressure, and you go out for a drink and people, and I did it 100 times. You're not drinking. Why would you do that? That's stupid. Let me get you a drink. And I had that 100 times. I've had it 1,000 times. But I could really grasp the one day at a time thing. I can do anything for a day.
Yeah.
And then I just
do the same thing again.
Yeah, just put days, then months, then years.
But if you focus on the years, the days won't happen. If you focus on the day, the years will happen.
But that's a good thing to point out. I think like if we go back, all the people that have come on, it's always like it's so scary to start about I'm going to do this for the rest of my life, right? And when you just you can only control the next 24 hours. As soon as that makes sense or that clicks, you always see them just skyrocket in their recovery.
The crazy part is the hold that alcohol. I mean, like you said, Jeff, you were at my wedding back in 100 years ago. I never once thought that day I got to do that for the rest of my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's some things in life that I got to work for the rest of my life. It's all good, but it was just that alcohol had me. It had a hold of me. And I felt worse when I wasn't drinking than when I was. And that just goes to the physical addiction part. And back to, it was far too long. I was drinking because I had to, not because I wanted to. The game changed a lot. do I wish my life was completely in control with everything and I could go back? I got to be honest with you. No, I don't. You know what I don't miss? I don't miss being sick. I don't miss being hungover. I don't miss feeling like shit most of the time. And even when you have it together, and you go out and you just have a crazy night, you always just felt like garbage the next day. And I haven't felt like garbage in years. And I really like that. I love the fact that I'm in control all the time. If somebody needs help, somebody needs a ride. For a while, you think if your kids have an emergency and they call you at 1 a.m, I can't do it. Now I can do anything, anytime. I'm in control. So life's changed. Life's good.
Wow. Isn't control such an important part of it? It's a choice. It's really the choice in anything we do, right? Like I see people addicted to their phone. Well, it's a choice. You can turn off your notifications and control your communication and not let the communication control you, right? If you're addicted to drinking, you can remove yourself, find some fellowship, find a program. There's just so many things when you put yourself in control and know that everything in your life that's good is because of you and everything bad in your life is most likely because of you. That you can have, just as you put it, days that turn into years of control.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Um, Talk a little bit about just like how often you go to meetings. Are you still going to meetings? Did you use a sponsor? Walk us through like the actual recovery a bit.
Yeah, well, like I said, I was telling that story earlier today. It was at a meeting, so I was at a meeting at noon today.
Yeah.
Um, I
Amen.
go,
That's your home group.
what's that?
Your home group. You go every afternoon, or
I'm probably going 3, 4 days a week now.
cool.
And I'm doing more and more. The double move didn't help. Uh,
Yeah.
Especially when I had the bazillion projects, because my home group is noon, and noon just became impossible. Impossible. That's not a fair. It wasn't the opportune time for me for a while. But I was also, kind of like in my corporate life, I was engulfed in the work and the stuff I was doing, and I was keeping myself busy and my mind busy. But I got to be honest with you, I like when I talk about meetings now, it's like group therapy. You
Yeah.
know, I think anybody on the planet could probably get something out of a meeting. It's just a bunch of non-perfect people, which I think I just described the entire human race. It's a bunch of non-perfect people talking about just some of the stuff that we go through, and everybody on the planet goes through stuff. It helps with coping, and so and I think I missed part of your my meeting. So yeah, I for the first 2 years I went, geez, when you said 90 and 90, it was way more than 90. There was many days I was going to 3 in a day.
Good.
And the only day I really didn't go back then was Sundays, because they were really, I can't tell you how many times I went to a meeting and I was the only person there. If there's some trial and error of finding the right place, the right time, the right people, and then you go to a meeting, there's you and one other person. I'm like, well, this is which is how I got my home group. For forever, I was going to 2 a day, probably 6 to 12 months. And then after I went through the program with a sponsor, went through the steps, actually got through all of them, which I refused to do for the first 2 years as well. I bought the book, I just never opened it.
Yes.
So yeah, after I did all that, that's when it was different. After the 2 years of not being committed but being involved. And then that one day at a time, I'm going to do it. Crack the book, take some chips.
Yeah. But I think everybody has their own journey, and like it's just so cool to see like you going from like I don't need this, I'm good, I'll white knuckle it. Oh, okay, I'll check out a meeting. Oh, Jeff sent me this app. Okay, I'll go see what that's like. And then your progression now to you still go to meetings, you've done the steps. That's fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah, it's good. Life's good.
Do you feel like you're a completely different person mentally, like just
Oh fuck.
going through this whole process?
Dude, one thing you probably if the one thing everybody heard me say 100 times was anxiety and anger, and Jeff, I had an anger problem.
Yeah.
If I was at a bar and somebody whatever looked
We're,
at somebody the wrong
yeah,
way, I'm like,
you're
hey,
fine. You're
let's finish this out in the parking lot.
Yeah.
I was just quick to go from 0 to 1,000, and more than and that probably was a longer period of time. My anger controlled me, for a lot of reasons. Um, lot of shit from a lot of years of just stuff, and I won't get into that. But I'm a calmer person. I listen more. One of the guys for a long time said I retired from the debate team. I retired from the debate team.
For sure.
Which is when you're out with people, my only goal in life is to prove you wrong with any fucking thing that you're saying. I'd be all in my phone Googling it just to do, and when I was in a conversation, I would listen to respond. I wanted to command the conversation, and I don't even know why. Now if things start, getting into that whole debating deal, sometimes I'm like, yeah, I got to go to the bathroom. I just have no interest in it, and not in a negative way. It's just they typically get heated, and me. I'm just not interested in any of that stuff anymore.
We talk about this all the time. You put up guardrails, and so those are your guardrails, right? And you don't give that energy anymore because you learned how to work on yourself, and that's not important to you anymore.
It's not healthy. It wasn't healthy.
Yeah.
And another thing that I say a lot, I used to get really, really super upset, pissed off, mad, irate, and then you know what you are 5 seconds later? All the things I just said. You're upset, you're pissed off, you're mad, and you're irate, and you can't turn that off in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was just irritating myself on a daily basis. Probably everybody else, but definitely me. And you'd wake up a week later and you're still pissed off. I'm like, what am I even mad about?
Yeah.
So controlling emotions, probably a whole lot better about that.
That's awesome, bro.
Pissed off a lot less in life.
Yeah. We're not boxing people in a Las Vegas club or a concert or a bar or
Yeah, I haven't invited anybody outside in years.
At least 3 years, right?
You hang out with bro. When we're coming up, you're hanging out with Bill. We're for sure getting in a fight with somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, I can
Not my
relate
best
to
moments.
those days. Drago, final thoughts.
Man, I'm just super pumped you came on here, dude. I really appreciate you being vulnerable with us and sharing your story. Listen, if you're watching this, we say this every episode. We do find recovery. We do find financial freedom. We do find love if you want it. We don't do this because we're trying to get famous. We're doing this because this was what fills up our cup and we want to be of service to you. So if you're thinking about recover, you want to have a conversation, you need a hug, I would much rather get a phone call from you at 3 o'clock in the morning than have to go to your funeral. So we just throw that out there. Me and Chad put both of our personal numbers in the chat. We are literally always available if you need any type of resources from us. Like, this is why we do this.
Bill, final thoughts.
Thanks for having me on. Anonymity's been a big thing for me for 3 years, and I'm getting out of my bubble a little bit. You guys are helping me with that.
So maybe this is it, man, because I did the same thing. So maybe this is the sign for you, because listen, you never know who's watching this. You never know who you're going to help. Because I remember I did the same thing. I'm like, I don't want to talk to people about my recovery because I'm in finance and people are going to judge me. And then somebody way smarter than me was like, hey man, why don't you just share? Maybe you can save somebody's life. And that was like the aha moment to me, to be like, hey, this is who I am. I'm in recovery. I'm going to recover out loud. So maybe that's the gift we just gave to you.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm 2 months. Is another year, and
maybe one day at a time.
I'm gonna keep one day at a time. One day at a time. That's what I'm gonna do.
Well, I will take us out. You have to be willing to change, and that's fine. Dip your toe in and know that it's not forever. Like Bill said, it's one day at a time, right? And I fell off a couple times, right? But then eventually you just start to learn that you can put it together in days and you don't need to focus on the months and the years, right? So I love that you said that. It's so true of why we educate our kids I have twin 9-year-olds and a 4-year-old, and we talk openly and transparently about this because I want them, when they're struggling with any of these things or they get it offered, that they can feel like they can come to me. And the truth is, as parents, we have to be cognizant of what we allow to our kids, because in the lessons that we teach them through our own struggles, because truth is, you don't know where that line is, where it crosses from being in control to being out of control. And
Yeah.
for me, and I love that you said that, Bill, it can happen really, really fast. And I'm a big believer. I believe that alcohol and drugs are the tool of the devil, and it sneaks up on you, and all of a sudden, you are out of control and you're not even aware of it. And once, there's not much you can do about it besides getting into recovery, and sometimes it becomes too late and it changes you psychologically, like you said. I love that you said this, right? From I have this great life, I have a beautiful wife who loves me, I have a great family that I come from, but it's okay, I'm going to keep drinking and this is the way I'm going to die. Like, that's messed up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But that's what it does. And it doesn't matter. Like, I think there's this stigma that an alcoholic is like tripping all over themselves all the time and can't be highly functioning. I mean, I know a ton of highly functioning alcoholics, right? Successful in real estate, all three of us, right? And gosh, I was successful when I was a user. So you just, there's these stigmas out there. Know that no one is strong enough or powerful enough once these things sneak up on you to have them take you over. So I love that you said that. It was just so powerful. And third, I haven't heard too many people. There's been a few that could white knuckle it, right? We all need mine was my 4 F's. I needed my faith, I needed my fitness, I needed my fellowship, and then I needed to learn how to have fun without the substance,
Yeah,
right? So
that's an important one.
that is an important one, right?
Oh, they all are, but the last one was that was a big one for me too.
How'd you do that?
I ducked out for a minute. I took some breaks from social activities. And then I just, the toughest part for me was having the conversation, because I was always, the biggest part of the party. And now I'm the guy not drinking. So I had to come to grips with, what am I going to say? And that was hard for me,
Yeah.
oddly. But then I just, after a while, I'm like, I didn't have, I think I said it earlier, I didn't have an off button. And I drank until I couldn't drink anymore. And I just decided not to anymore. And
Amen.
now I can go anywhere. I can go any social situation anywhere. And make no mistake about it. If it starts getting out of control, it's probably time for me to go home. But I have no problem going to, bars, concerts, whatever, vacations. I'm good.
That's amazing.
Water with the lemon.
Yeah. Iced tea. I drink iced tea.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like the soda water. Well, buddy, I think you shared a lot today. I think you definitely help some lives. And if it's alcohol, I'm sure Bill would be willing to talk to you. If you're struggling with opioids, Jeff would be willing to talk to you. If you're struggling with stimulants, I will be willing to talk to you. If you're having mental health issues, any of us would be willing to talk to you. We might not be able to help you ourselves, but we have the resources that can. So if you're looking to change, if you have a family member that needs our help, we don't have all the answers. We do have a lot of resources. Please DM us. Please share our episodes. Please comment below. And don't be scared to reach out to us if you need to connect us with someone that needs help, you need advice on how to deal with an addict, or you need some hope of what process or path you could take them down.
Hell yeah.
Well, this was amazing, man. Thank you so much. It was great hearing your story. I just met you, but I'm proud of you, man. Take it one day at a time, and thank you for changing some lives today.
Thanks for having me on, guys.